my concern is that the Muslim Brotherhood is not a boogeyman. The Muslim Brotherhood, even without further radicalization, is has a real potential, is a real scenario of the Brotherhood taking power. If we have a process of going towards free elections, and while we don't know how many members and supporters the Brotherhood have, because it's a secret, I assume that they have more supporters, more voters than all the opposition parties put together to go and vote. Now, if you abolish the National Democratic Party, which is the ruling party, and I see the Muslim Brotherhood pushing towards abolishing that party, sort of a de-Baathification being carried out in Egypt for this party, you can expect hordes of former members of the NDP joining the Brotherhood in order to get jobs and positions and connections and so on. So in very short time, you can see this 10%, 20% blowing up, and this is the real force to deal with. Now, let's not be mistaken. The Muslim Brotherhood is a religious movement which uses politics as a mean to achieve religious targets. This is not a political organization using religion for political objectives. It's a religious movement. Politics was adopted at a later stage of its activity. Its main line and main strategy is not politics, it's dawah, it's social work. The idea is to Islamize society from down upwards. Politics is useful, it can be helpful because it gives you forums, you can speak in parliament and so on, legislation, but this is not the mainstream. So this is a religious movement which has principles. Only 3 years ago, the Brotherhood discussed a draft program for a party that it was going to establish at that time. And if you look at the principles in this draft program, they talk about establishing a state of Sharia, where Parliament should consult with an assembly of religious scholars, ulama, where the President has to consult or to get the approval of ulama, of religious scholars, and where the head of state must be a male Muslim, because the state has religious functions and it has to defend Islam, and only a Muslim who is male can be head of state. In other words, women and non-Muslim minorities are not equal in that state. And this was published open. It is an open statement of objectives of this Muslim Brotherhood organization. They don't hide it. It's not a hidden agenda. In other words, what you will have there is an Islamist party taking over and gradually taking the country after purging the institutions, the military, the police, the bureaucracy, from its opponents to an Islamist state. Now, if we look at the environment, gradually Islamist forces take over. Iran is getting stronger in Iraq, obviously in Lebanon. Hamas has established itself in Gaza. And now you will have a similar force in Egypt, turning the whole balance of power in the Middle East against the moderates, against secular regimes, against Western powers. This is one scenario. It doesn't have to happen. It could be averted.
I would like, on the Muslim Brotherhood, I mean, it is not a monolithic organization. It's a very diverse within. And it is a religious institution in the main, in its making. But there are dangers. Again, I would like to underline, the longer, the more non-responsive the reaction is, the danger is the radicalization. And now, the second scenario you just painted, which is, I would think is even worse. If the army becomes the guardian or the defender of secularization, it is automatically assumed, I would say by default, that the Muslim Brotherhood will be the counter and will be as organized as a very gloomy scenario. I don't even want to think about it, because it will be militia, it will be organized. There are arms in Egypt, and they are the most organized groups. And now, what if this happens? If this confrontation happens between the military and the streets, then immediately the response would be the militarization, if I might use the term, of the opposition, the organized opposition. And we don't want to go there. I think the most important thing to remember that we should not allow the situation of a Muslim Brotherhood becoming more than what they aspire to be right now. they are aspiring to be an important player in society, organized political party, their own views, like Shas is here. It is a religious group with a certain, I mean, I am not an expert on Israeli politics, but I saw what's happening, and I don't see why we should not have a Muslim Brotherhood party taking part of the political process under democratic rules and rule of law.
I'm sure people here are not
in agreement
willing
with
to agree with you that
well,
the
Muslim
Brotherhood
yeah.
and which brought us the Hamas can be compared with Shas.
I mean, Hamas is a different story. I mean, I do not want to divert the situation out of Egypt because this is going to complicate the discussion. There are ideological links, there are interesting or important, political links. Nevertheless, the Brotherhood in Egypt is also focused on the Egyptian scene and what they play within the Egyptian political scene, and what they become in the next few weeks and months is again a direct function of how radical the crowds will become and how much reaction we get from the army.